everybody. Welcome back to the Empire Self Podcast. I am your host, Mark A. Turnipseed, and I am just absolutely thrilled to be back here on set with you guys back in the sunny South Florida. Man, it is gorgeous out here. In the wintertime, there's just no better place than sunny South Florida. That's why I'm back. LA was a lot of fun. Just to update you on my personal life, I was out there for about 5 months. And I have a ton of reflections on this LA journey, but ultimately, I don't want to dive into all of those during this podcast, but I will sum it up in saying that I absolutely love the place. I found and met some of the most beautifully brilliant and creative people out there. It was an absolute honor to work with people like Tara Reid on a film project and to meet artists and just to have a ball, recognizing that life can be whatever you make it. That there's people out there who seem to have somehow decided that at a very early age, that they were just going to make life how exactly they wanted it, how dreams could come true. I think that this land was a magical land of portals and manifestation, that anything could come true, that I could dream up and it could just happen in front of my eyes. And I took that from my California experience and I've brought it back with me and I've carried it in my heart. And now it's a little seed inside of my heart, knowing that as I walk through life and align deeper and deeper with who I am, I can further manifest the things that I was meant for. Not the things necessarily that my mind wants, because that can lead me into some dark spirals ultimately. That's the nature of this podcast. Today, that's the nature of the Empire Self Podcast, is to talk about how my wants and how my desires aren't necessarily the best things for me to ground my manifestation journey off of, right? Although they can come true, my wants and desires are often from my ego. They're often from the part of my mind that's maybe trying to protect me from potentially challenging or hard situations that it doesn't want to go through. Maybe it's trying to protect me from love because I have a fear of intimacy and a hurt and wounded past. Maybe it's trying to prevent me from success. And it's coming in the forms of wants. And it's coming in the forms of desires. It's coming in the forms of taste. It's coming in the form of, you deserve this, you deserve that. Go out and get it. This is what your heart desires. But how do we know? How do we know this is what our heart desires or this is what our ego desires? And I'm starting to find out. As I was walking around in LA, I often would see people that I go, this is a man or this is a woman whose life has led them into more suffering by chasing after everything they want. Some of those people have everything in the world that you can imagine, material-wise. Some of them have nothing material-wise. Both of them share within them a commonality of being empty and broken in spirit. And I see these people. I met these people. I met both homeless and I met billionaires. I met people with seemingly no hope and people with all the hope. And both of them were as empty and hopeless as I often find myself as. And I recognized that the common thread that me and these people shared was that we were listening to the ego to decide what we wanted in life. But there's something deeper inside of myself that I started to recognize over the past, 10 years while I've been doing this journey of self-discovery. There's something past the ego that's much more dependable to rely on. And it takes me, once I get the things of it, once I get the things that I'm desiring of this, ego filled or the non ego filled self, the self that this podcast is based off of, the Empire Self podcast, the true self that lies within, the true self that lies within, when I chase after the things of it, it doesn't lead me to a place of disparity. It doesn't lead me to a place of more suffering. Instead, it leads me to a place of greater peace and greater serenity and more fulfillment, more sustenance. Diet, I think, is one of my favorite examples of this, because very often my ego will tell me I need some comfort food. Very often. Almost every time, especially when I first was learning to live a healthy lifestyle, every time my stomach would start to feel the trigger of hunger, my mind, my ego would tell me, it's time to go get food. Now get this, it's not wrong. The fact that I need food is not wrong, right? Now, which voice am I going to listen to? The ego one or the true self that's within me? Because the true self that's within me wants something different than comfort food, right? I was continuing to eat comfort food so much that I was 230 pounds. I was pre-diabetic. I was hypertensive. This is no state of being that the true self actually wants to be in. This is the state of being that the ego self wants to be in. The ego self, for some reason, is like the shadow self, and it kind of wants to be alone. It's kind of going to do the things that take me out of life. And I'm not sure why this duality exists within all of us. But to be able to hear them out and notice them and separate them so that I can go after the things that are actually good for me, not the things that I just want in the moment, or maybe so that I can look deeper into the things that I want and find out what part of it's illusion and what part of it's truth. I want food. Now, what part of it is the illusionary aspect? What do I really want behind this food? Right? What is it about, like, in a relationship? You meet somebody that you're like, wow, this is a great person. I'm really excited to get to know this person. And then all of a sudden the thought comes in, now I want to have sex with this person. Well, then you go off, all right, I'll go off and I'll have sex with this person. And then the whole other aspect of this beautiful union of shared emotions and learning from each other and potentially creating something dissolves, disappears, dissipates. I got what the ego wanted. I don't know if I got what the true self wanted. The true self wanted a relationship. The true self wanted connection. The true self didn't get it. The ego did. So at some point, I wanted to start listening to this true self more than this ego. While I was out there, I just recognized I've got to start finding a way to listen to this true self, because my ego self, it always tends to take me into a place that's not so great for me, right? For instance, with fitness, for me, fitness has been my survival from addiction and homelessness and just a horrible state of discontent and misery that my body had fallen into. It helped my mind, body, and spirit get back on track. But then it became something more. Then it became something that I want to do, and my ego wants to do better and better and better, to get bigger and bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger and stronger. In a way, it wants to be the best, right? The ego wants to be the strongest man out there. The ego wants to be the sexiest man out there. The ego wants to, in other words, separate me. It wants to separate me. Just like eating my comfort food to the point where I can hardly even get up out of my bed, where I don't even want to look at myself in the mirror, the ego wants to separate me. The ego is driven by so many emotions and feelings and dreams. One day I'll be the biggest, strongest man. But then as I grow and I get older, right, I can carry on those dreams. But I have to find a way to balance those so that I'm not chasing after these dreams and losing what the true self really wants. The true self, does it really want to be Mr. Universe? Does it really want to be Elon Musk? Does the true self really want to have everything that this little heart desires? And once it does get that, is that going to make this true self happy? No, I don't think they really even communicate back and forth. They have a mediary that communicates. That mediary has got to be me. I've got to be the intermediary of these two warring beings inside. And they aren't necessarily warring, they kind of complement each other, right? They kind of drive us. And we can learn to take the things that are positive in both and merge them together and unify them in spirit. We can unify them in a way, right? Because when I get hungry and I start to desire food, my ego is driven by this desire. It wants the food. It starts thinking about the food. Now I can take my true self and merge the feelings that are coming from this ego. I can step back and I can look at the feelings and the thoughts that are coming from this ego. I can separate the ones that are good for me, the ones that aren't, so that the self, the pure self, can come in and merge completely. And at that point, I'm able to find out what I truly want in my life, what I truly need in my diet, what I truly need in my fitness. Now I'm noticing if I don't listen to this interaction between these two, what ends up happening is that I get in a place where I hurt myself, and I may, out of frustration, start hurting other people. But primarily, I hurt myself. For instance, I'll hurt my back. I'll work out so hard, work out so much, and I start hurting my back. Or I'll hurt my knee. Iron Man started to hurt my heart. I started to have my heart aches. I started to hurt my body. Started to get out of balance. I started to do something that was self-based, right? To do Iron Man and to witness this was totally spirit-led. That first race, maybe the second one. And then it became a self-identification process where the ego was trying to build a man. It was like build a bear. The ego is trying to build a man. I want to be the Iron Man. I want to be the strongest, fittest, most beautiful man. I want to be the model. I want to be the actor. I want to be the speaker. I want to be all these things. And it started building all this stuff. The ego went wild, man. Started building all this stuff. And the self was just like, wait, what's going on? And the intermediary, my body, started, because of the conflict, starts to tear at itself, starts to become fragmented, starts to develop anxieties, depressions. And when that happens, I know that there's that conflict in between the two. So now, what I know to do is when those conflicts rise and it starts to become high, may it be in my body or my mind with depression and anxiety, or my body with my back, I have to take action, right? Just like when you feel sick, you go to the doctor. All right. When you start to recognize depression and anxiety, When I start to recognize these things, when I start to recognize that I have back pain, it's time to take action. It's not time to sit back. It's not time just to rest. It's time to scrutinize. It's time to dive into life. What are the imbalances in my life? How am I not serving as the intermediary? How am I letting my ego run wild? How am I letting myself get cast in the shadow? My true self, the capital self, the self that is divine. How am I letting this self dwindle in the shower, dwindle in the shadows? My ego's running wild. And when my ego's running wild, I give no glory to God. I have no connection with the flow of life. Instead, I'm building everything the way I think it should be, when I think it should be that way. How I think it should be functioning is how it functions. How I think I should have things in my life or be a certain person or come off a certain way. All these types of little things that my ego is trying to run while myself is starting to cower in the shadows. What I want to do and what I need to do is let this little light shine. Let this little light, the one that's right in here, and you need to let this little light shine. This little light is the self. This stuff, the ego stuff, the building of the perfect hairdo or the worrying about the perfect hairdo or just the conceptualization and imagination of, whatever you dream of your, body or being to be. You can kind of let go of that after childhood and you can just be. You don't have to continue to have this ego-driven facade that you're trying to lift up to because it just is a never-ending desire to be better looking, and there's never a way to do that. There's never a way to be absolutely perfect fit all the time. There's just no way to do that. And so we have to find a way to merge these two, to recognize that some of these healthy desires can become one with the true self, so that the true self can use these healthy desires and let this little light shine. This little light is the light that's connected to the Lord. It's the light that's connected to the very breath that we breathe in. It's connected to the very life source that's flowing through all of us. If I look at this really closely, what it does is it connects me to love. If I can really look at this really, really closely, then even when I'm walking down this street and my ego says, look at this person, you don't want this person. Look at this person, you don't want to sit by this person. This person is dirty, this person is ugly. You're missing the words of the self. You're scared not of this person's ugliness, you're scared of your own ugliness. The own ugliness that is cropped up because of the ego. You're walking in fear. You're not walking in faith. When I notice myself walking in fear and not faith, I'm riddled with anxiety. I'm riddled with pain. I'm riddled with depression. When I'm walking in faith, I'm connected. I'm not disjointed. I'm not fragmented. I'm not fractured. I'm connected and I'm unified. When I'm walking in spirit, when I can find that place and separate myself from the ego and listen to what the true self deserves and desires, then all the things in this life are added to me instead of me adding or trying to add all these things to my life. It's what God says in the Bible. Ask and these things will be added into your life. Ask, these things will be given into your life. But it's not asking from the state of the ego. The ego does not have a connection with God. The self does. The self is what has to ask. You got to break away from the noise of this ego saying, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, that. If I have this, if I have $1 million, this is the ego. You can't manifest through the ego. You can't do miracles through the ego. You can dream. You can have some good things that come from the ego. It can help to move you about this physical plane, but it's not a dependable place to be. The only dependable place to be is right here in the spirit. And that's the one that's going to last forever. And then in the middle, you have your mind, you have your body. You can listen to your body. You sit back and you observe. You go inside of yourself. You sit back and you observe these voices, these wants, these thinkings. If I have this, I'll be better. If I have another cup of coffee, I'll be good. If I have another cigarette, if I could just get a little bit stoned, if I could just get a little bit drunk. All of these things. If I could just get a little bit more wealthy. If I could just have my bills taken care of. If I could just get off the street. What if it's the street where you need to be? What if it's the bills not being paid that are helping drive the work that you would otherwise not do? Be here now. Firmly rooted now in the breath. And whatever you have to do to get away from this ego trying to separate you from the spirit, do what has to be done. So today I had an instance where I walked into a room. I walked into an AA room, and I all of a sudden didn't feel welcome. And I said in my head, I don't want to come back here. I've done this time and time again, 20, 30 years. I'm only 38, not 30 years. But about 20 years I've been coming into AA rooms. And I leave them. I've also gone to churches. I've gone to schools. And I don't feel like I belong in a lot of places. I feel like when I walk in, I try to make friends and they just don't accept me. I don't know what it is. I remember being in college, I purposefully avoided the fraternity offers and things like that. Absolutely no way was I going to join a fraternity. I didn't belong. My mind, my ego always told me, you don't belong with these people. You don't belong here. Now, I don't know what your ego says if it's something like that, but my ego did that this morning, and I was inside this AA meeting, and some guy didn't really shake my hand like he was shaking everybody else's hand. He was walking around. He was friends with everybody. He came over to me and I was like, what's up, man? Nice to meet you. And he barely even touched me and just kind of looked away. And I was like, that was the oddest thing. He was just so jovial with everybody else. And then he came to me and just blah. And all of a sudden, my ego told me, you should be in places where people respect you, where you're needed, where people love you. You don't need to be here. My ego is trying to separate me. Now there's something deeper inside of me that can see if it can see that this just happened, which it did. It saw that this just happened. And then as it tried to separate me, my being, this being in the middle, started to feel a little bit sad, started to feel a little bit anxious, started to feel a little bit unsettled. Now I looked inside, rather than making a decision that I was never going to come back here again, which I have done in the past, which I'm frustrated with. Why do I keep doing this? So I'm sitting there with that frustration and I feel it happen. I feel the tinge occur inside my emotional state, inside my human experience. I feel this happen and I interrupt it. I recognize it as chatter. And I go, why are you trying to separate me from unity? From a place where I can be giving the message of hope to another alcoholic. Why are you trying to separate me? Why are you trying to say that I'm not good enough to be here at this Alcoholics Anonymous meeting? Why are you trying to take me out? Why are you trying to separate me? And then it dawned on me. It was only trying to separate me because it was trying to protect me from feelings. Just like the only reason why it's trying to separate me from the good, wholesome food is to separate me because it doesn't like the feelings. It wants the comfort food. It doesn't want to have these feelings. I don't know why it doesn't want to have these feelings. But I do know how I combat that as well. And I do that through doing uncomfortable things, like cold plunging. And then recognizing that after I do these types of things, I feel better every single time. So in this way, I can start to choose the things that actually bring myself deeper sense of joy or non-suffering. They bring painless experience. They bring peaceful experiences. And I can start to learn to squash the whole concept of comfort and the things that I want and the things that I think I desire. And I can start going after the things that I'm actually meant for and receiving the things that are actually meant for me. No more or no less. I don't need no more or no less. Any more or any less is going to cause pain and suffering. I want to be right there in the middle. And I have found my way of being right there in the middle. And that's what I'm sharing with you guys today. It's all about interrupting. It's all about observing. It's all about being in that space where I can see the chatter, where I can recognize the chatter is not me. And then I can set aside and say, are you trying to separate me from wholeness? Are you trying to separate me from unity? Are you trying to separate me from peace? Is this thought going to bring peace? Or is this thought going to bring suffering? If it's not going to bring peace, if it's not going to bring serenity, if it's not going to bring wholeness, then it is straight of the ego. Guaranteed. Every single time. Every single time. So my challenge to you guys, at the end of this episode, my challenge to you guys is to take what I've talked about today and do one thing. This one thing is very essential to help you to start to be able to listen to these states, to be able to feel your body so you know, I shouldn't be working out today. Not, I shouldn't be working out today because I'm tired, because I drank too much the night before. No, I shouldn't be working out today because I remember that guy in the podcast saying sometimes he overworks himself and he actually hurt his back. That he ran and listened to his ego so much that he started to hurt his heart. To really truly be able to listen to what your body wants for food, to really truly be able to listen to what your spirit wants for you in your life, you have to be able to learn to quiet and sit there inside of yourself. You don't actually necessarily have to quiet it. That's going to be hard, but there's tasks for that. But the trick is to just be there, right? To just be there with yourself. To go in there and just let it ramble, let it listen. But instead of becoming immersed in it as if you're in some movie theater. Just simply be in it and listen to it as if you're sitting at the back of the movie theater, as if you're sitting at the place where you open the door and you're not really all the way in there yet. Be there and just like listen and observe. And just learn to observe. Learn to observe with the understanding that there's parts to this human experience. The mind, body, spirit. There's a spirit, there's a body, there's a mind. There's all these different things kind of talking. But just learn to kind of separate them and listen to them. It's going to be a fun journey for you. And the way that you start really listening to them instead of engaging is through the breath. Okay? So just always stand with the breath. Always stand with the breath. And there is going to be your answer. There you're going to start to be able to ascertain. After some time, if you want to start diving into practicing quieting those thoughts, we just step a little bit deeper into the theater and deeper into breath. Okay? But first, just become aware. Just find a way to sit there. As little kids, we're so scared of going to sleep at night because we're stuck alone with our thoughts. I know more and more adults that can't sleep unless they take pills. They can't sleep unless they're actually tired. Sleep is a discipline. It's something we train ourselves to do. I train myself. I go to sleep at 8:30 every night. I'm not always tired. I choose to. I go there and I go to sleep. I make myself. I close my eyes and I become ready for sleep. I ready myself for sleep. They're rituals before I'm going to bed. I set up my night for it, right? I'm disciplined to do it. That's how we start to actually quiet our mind, is we start disciplining the listening activities. We start disciplining ourselves not to engage with, instead just be the observer. So start disciplining yourself just to be present. Little kids, they can't go to sleep because their voice is too loud. They're scared of it. Many of the adults that I know are still scared of this voice. They're still scared of being alone with it. If you're scared of it, guys, how are you going to control it? You have to be there with it. So I want you to practice being there with yourself, with your mind, with your voice, and just don't engage with it. If it starts to say things like, I am this, I'm this, I'm this, just squash that. Say, I am redeemed. I am saved. I am beautiful and I am whole. Those are the only things. If it says things that are not bringing peace, that are bringing suffering, say by this power of the Spirit invested in me, be gone. Start working miracles in your life there. You don't have to succumb to this voice of the ego. You can take power, you can take action. So take action in your life where you need to take action. And if that is to sit in 5 minutes of meditation today, just to listen to your voice, just to be apart from it, and just to tap into your breath, may that be it. But get out there and do it. And guys, if your action is to share this podcast with somebody who might enjoy it, then go ahead, share it. There's a little share button somewhere down there. I'm not sure which podcast platform you're listening to this on, but if you're on Instagram or if you're on YouTube, just go ahead and click the like, share buttons. And if you would like to follow along, just go ahead and click subscribe. I would love to continue to guide you guys through the different ways that I've learned to create an empire out of the self. The empire out of the self that could be a ray of hope to others out there. The empire out of the self where you can be confident to come home into this body. The empire of self where you can dream, where you can create, where you can help other countries become this empire. Help me change the world. The world is not going to change by changing the political structure out there. The world's going to change by changing each individual. Become more dependent. Become more internally focused. Become more peaceful. And then the stuff outside of us, will start to change too. But we gotta start working on the self. We gotta create these little empires of self. Everybody should be a ray of light. Everybody is a ray of light. So awaken. Awaken into your light. You are an empire of self. So get out there, you beautiful, brilliant people. I love you very much.